Welcome, wonderful listeners, to the Shadow and Starlight Podcast, where two friends deep dive into popular fantasy and romantasy books. We get into the stories, characters, world building, lore, and more. And most importantly, we'll have a damn good time while we do it.
Buckle your seatbelts for this wild roller coaster ride of emotions, magical worlds, and laughs. I'm Kinsey.
I'm Kana.
And today we're covering chapters 28 through 36 of Quicksilver by Callie Hart.
First and foremost, please listen carefully to our content warning. These are adult books we're covering, and neither of us have a filter, so this podcast is rated R and for those 18 plus. Regarding spoilers, if you have not finished the entire Quicksilver book, please come back after you do so. While we are discussing a certain stretch of chapters each episode, we will be doing so with the understanding of what happens in the entire book. That way we can really dive deeper into the theories and appreciate the masterful foreshadowing of Callie Hart. So going forward, all episodes on our show will contain spoilers for the whole series in question.
Next, if you like what you hear today and want more, please come back next Thursday, and next Thursday, and next Thursday, and every Thursday after that for a new episode. As a baby podcast, we love to hear your feedback and better ourselves and expand our book-loving community. Please feel free to leave us reviews. Reach out to us on social media and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and watch us on YouTube at Shadow and Starlight Pod.
Yes, and if you know someone that reads the books we're talking about, or you just have a book bestie, please tell them about our podcast if you like it. It means the world to us, especially word of mouth. I feel like that's really how we're going to spread. So tell your book friends if you like
please,
us. But yes,
please.
It is our Halloween episode, and we need a moment to talk about our costumes. So if you're just listening, go check us out on YouTube so you can see how ridiculously awesome we look right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So the inspiration between mine was I went to Five Below and I got a wig, and I was like, we're going to do something with this. So basically, I'm just a princess. I just decided to put on my tiara for my bachelorette party and put on some face gems and some glitter and some makeup, and yeah.
Nice.
I was too broke to cosplay as one of my favorite book characters this year, so this is what's happening.
Technically, okay, I'm gonna make it relate to the last two books we've covered. Technically, Saeris is a vampire queen, so the crown, the tiara, and we did talk about very colorful dragons from When the Moon Hatched. They were all like blues and purples and browns, and so you could be like a mixture of a moon plume or a saber scythe, and then a vampire queen.
Hell yeah. Okay, wow, that was a way better explanation than what I came up with. Let's go with that one.
I went to Walmart and found these wings and this halo. I'm channeling my inner Akatar, Bat Boy, Batgirl kind of vibes.
I love it. Yes.
I did very light makeup and face gems.
What costumes on a budget, if you really, really think about it.
Yeah, if you really, really pay attention to the close detail.
But anyways, happy Halloween, listeners. So happy you're here with us.
Also, another announcement. By the time this episode comes out, the audiobook to Quicksilver will be released. So exciting. I'm ready for it. I'm so happy.
I've been saving my Audible credit for it. And all the snippets I keep hearing, I'm just like, holy shit. This is going to be so good. I'm binge it immediately. Yes. Also, another exciting announcement. Callie Hart herself followed us on TikTok. And she said that we're funny. So you heard it from the woman herself. You should listen to our podcast. Okay, drink of the pod. I guess I'll go first. I'm drinking a wine that I can't pronounce. And it's pretty refreshing, honestly.
Nice. I'm drinking a Calypso Island Breeze. No, Island Wave lemonade. It's my favorite lemonade and my favorite flavor. So
I love it. I've actually still never tried that lemonade brand. It's kind of sad.
So good. It's very sour. That's how I like my lemonade.
I feel like I never see it in stores anywhere, but I love sour as well, so I'd probably love it.
I can always find them at Kroger.
Okay. I don't go to Kroger very much, so there you go. But I'll look for one.
All right. To kick off our episode, Kana's going to lead us through our Shadow and Starlight synopsis, aka her unhinged summary detailing the events of these chapters.
I'm sorry. You're just so cute with your little costume.
You're adorable too.
It's cracking me up right now. Thank you. All right. This stretch of chapters opens up with Carrion and Saeris bonding by throwing glass beakers against the mountainside. It actually kind of sounds like a lot of fun. Clearly, no scientist. Saeris is frustrated by her lack of success making relics, and the Quicksilver is literally mocking her. Until Carrion suggests a new idea. Have you tried asking it to become a relic? To Saeris' extreme annoyance, Carrion is right. After a full-blown negotiation with this sentient magic, it agrees to be formed into a god sword on two conditions of a bribe. Number one, it wants to be serenaded. Number two, their new mom or dad has to be honorable. Check and check. Lorreth, where you at, boy? After sweating her tits off for hours to make a weapon worthy of glory, Saeris seeks out Lorreth, who is scamming Carrion out of some chits. Not only can this Fae warrior sing, he is good with a blade, and he's an excellent wood whittler. Hours later, the sword is complete, a thing of beauty with a wolf carving for the hilt. The Quicksilver reminds her of her bribe, and Lorreth busts out into song as a blessed aurora peaks the sky. Mackenzie, it's your favorite word. Aurora.
I hate that word.
The song is a tribute to Fisher, detailing his heroic sacrifice at the Asian Gate, slaying of old mad Shakrai, the dragon. R.I.P. Before they go to retrieve Danya, the Quicksilver announces that Lorreth bled on the blade first, and the reforged sword claims him. Avicieth, the unsung song, Redemption's Dawn, Angel's Breath, blue flame skitters down the blade, and a pillar of light energy shoots into the sky. Ooh, chills. Next chapter, an exhausted Saeris gets some self-care courtesy of Fisher, who gives her a bath, washes her hair, and tucks her into bed with a new pair of magical cutesy pajamas. Boldened by her success with the sword, Saeris awakes in the night and attempts to speak to the rather ridiculously stubborn Quicksilver that is within Fisher's eye. Eventually, Saeris gives up, for now, and soon after, an urgent wren announces the horde of vampires has returned. Jumping out of bed, Fisher again magically dresses Saeris, this time in black fighting leathers. Dang it, husband, why can't you magically dress me every morning and night? That would be amazing. I hate not being Fae. But anyways. Saeris begs Fisher not to command her away from danger, to which he actually listens, sealing their relationship with trust. He reveals Solus, giving his father's blade to Saeris, again affirming his trust and love for her. The crew arrives at that darn river, and the vampires begin crossing just as the ice begins to break. Just when their defense seems successful, the vampires begin crawling out of a river, a prior impossibility. They are quickly swarmed, and Saeris joins in on the slaying of vampires with her fancy pants new sword. Fisher joins in with Nemorel, and Lorreth wields Angel's Breath, quickly gaining momentum back in the group's favor. The chanting of Lorreth's name follows the howls of Fisher's wolves, interrupted by Everlane, what are you doing here? Yep. Welcome back, not so clever Lane, who is in quite a pickle. And enter Taladeus, Lord of Midnight, aka Malcolm's son. He informs Fisher that his nasty-ass father bit Everlane, making her enthralled to him. In doing so, Malcolm hopes to incentivize Fisher to give him what he desires most, the Alchemist. The crew reels from Malcolm's ultimatum, grasping at solutions. Danya interrupts their brainstorming to punch Lorreth for stealing her little pointy stick, and God does this woman have a problem with punching people. When she tries to take Avicieth, the sword throws her across the room and takes her hand. Before the group heads back to Kalish to research in the library, they acknowledge Saeris' feats on the battlefield. She has cemented herself as a badass member of this inner circle, and they kneel before her and press a bloody handprint on her chest. Fisher is last and actually uses Saeris' government name for the first time instead of Little Osha. And she pretty much has the same reaction that I have when my husband calls me Kana and not Babe, or my precious angel Princess Sweetie Baby. So, yeah. Arriving back at Kalish, Saeris learns via that spicy bitch Danya that the chair she has been lounging on in every dining room scene is reserved for the lady of the house, Fisher's wife. And Danya, if the boot fits. And it does. While the group argues, Carrion interrupts, and he is carrying a potted plant because he likes the way it looked and he needed a new tent decoration. Spin-off Callie, I need a spin-off. In true Carrion fashion, he slept through the entire battle. Before passing out, Danya calls Carrion pretty, giving me all the ammo I need to keep shipping this couple for the rest of the series. I need it. Back in the forge, the Quicksilver is having a lazy day and doesn't want to acquiesce to any of Saeris' requests. Carrion joins and is quickly nosy about her relationship. That's not a relationship. To her shock, when she opens up, he doesn't mock her. The Quicksilver interrupts our conversation and agrees to put its lazy day on pause if Saeris will share a secret. She relents, speaking her truth. She loves Evelia and she does not want to go back to Silverin. Loving the tea, the Quicksilver helps Saeris make her first relic. With blood! Yay! Might I just say, I think the Suriel and the Quicksilver should be friends because they really do love the tea. Telena arrives to check for wounds, and Carrion immediately starts to flirt with her, asking her to reconsider their dinner date. Saeris interrupts to ask her about her rune tattoos, learning about god binding and marks from the fates. Reeling, she heads off to find Fisher for some answers on why she has more tattoos than anybody else. In this confrontation, Fisher bears it all to a questioning Saeris. He gives her an info drop on the real meaning of Oshalith, his mother the Oracle, and their confirmed mating bond. In a slightly stalkerish fashion, his mother had written pages and pages of Saeris and even drew her several times, and the weight of this predicted future is pretty heavy for our girl. To add on to this pile of shock, Fisher lets her know that his pendant won't be able to protect him from insanity forever, so he actually initiated the waiting period on their bond to save her from his grim future. Rightfully pissed, Saeris is angry that she wasn't part of any of these decisions. Saeris gives him a verbal ass whipping, as she should, on his selfishness and the stupidity of his plan to basically kill himself, and she resolves to research a way to save him as well as our girl Everlane. And that's where this stretch ends.
Oh, can't believe we're almost done.
It's getting sad. It's such a good book.
No.
But I'm excited for other books too.
Yeah.
I'm in the mood to get back into Fourth Wing because it's getting close to Onyx Storm time,
Dragons.
And I am ready.
Now that we're finished with the summary, time to head into our chapter chat section where we would discuss all notable things in this stretch of chapters, including theories, foreshadowing, and more.
All right, so the first foreshadowing topic we're going to dig into is Saeris becoming Fae. So we know this happens, and we'll dig into it next episode. But it's interesting because Fisher's mother actually predicted this. Quote, "In all of her drawings of you, your ears were like mine. You were Fae." So Fisher's mother, we know, was an oracle, which is why he knew exactly who Saeris was when he was summoned to Zilverin. He recognized her immediately because her mother somehow drew her almost perfectly, but there was one flaw. Her ears were pointed. And we know that Saeris is human for now. Callie's placement of this information was really smart. She's starting to get our wheels turning that Saeris is going to become a Fae. So that's like the first really foreshadowing, and then not so long after that, it happens. But in the scene, we are getting lots of vulnerability from both Fisher and Saeris. So this small detail that his mother got wrong goes in readers' heads, but it is a really important detail and wonderful foreshadowing for the end of the book. And I kind of was thinking that on my first read. I was like, if she drew her as her Fae, I bet somehow she becomes a Fae. And then she does, but I did like that how there was a twist to that. She's not just Fae, she's also a vampire. But she does have those pointed ears, though. I just love the vampire twist to this. It's fun.
I love the vampire twist. My inner Vampire Diary fanatic is coming out. Okay, now we're going to talk about Agent Gay and Num Shakrai. After wondering what some of Fisher's nicknames has meant for so long, we finally get some answers in these chapters. So one of these nicknames in question is Kingfisher of the Agent Gate. So in the scene where Saeris reforges Daniel's sword, Lorreth sings the Ballad of the Agent Gate, which is basically the tale of Kingfisher and his pack of wolves. So in this song, it is expressed that Fisher and the pack fight a war against an enemy. And this enemy in the song is kind of being described as a dragon, and maybe even a horde of dragons, because it says they were like surrounding the gates. And in the song, they end up defeating the enemy at question and save Agent. In the song, it is stated that Kingfisher stabs the dragon in the throat.
That makes him even hotter, even though I'm sad dragon died, but it's pretty hot.
Yeah. It does explain his Dragon's Bane nickname as well. And right now, their common enemies are currently vampires and feeders. However, in the song, Fisher and the Wolves fought against a dragon. So I know that this might be like a tale of something that happened way back when, but I don't know if it's either like foreshadowing for book 2, a prophecy that might be fulfilled later on, or just how he got his nickname in general. And it also makes us question, are dragons going to be considered the antagonists if they ever do pop up in this series. Will they be on the opposing side versus us getting to love on the little baby dragons? Even though they won't be
Damn
babies,
it.
probably.
Probably not. I kind of highly doubt at this point. Like, the more we deep dive it, I'm like, I don't think there's going to be dragons because there's already so much other stuff that's happening. But I don't know. It could happen, but I would predict that it doesn't. So, another piece of foreshadowing I want to talk about is the fact that I'm shipping Everlane and Memphis. And I feel like it was kind of confirmed for me in these chapters that there is something between these two. So when Taladeus presents Everlane on the other side of the river, Remphis's reaction to this just kind of made me think about it. But quote, Ren cried out, the sound strangled, and it looked like he would ignore his own words and charge blindly into the river. It was Lane's outstretched palm that stopped him. And I feel like that's a pretty strong reaction. Obviously they know each other, but I just feel like that's more than like maybe a friend would do. And I also feel like since he's this general and stuff, he's super busy. Him and Lane probably haven't got to spend that much time together. So I don't really feel like they would be that good of friends. I just feel like they like each other.
Yeah.
And this confirmed it for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I definitely always thought in the back of my head that they had something going on. So I do think this is kind of proof of maybe a future couple.
I know. And I feel like he's strong enough to handle her as a vampire.
Yeah.
I feel like he still wants her. I don't know.
I love the fact that a lot of these pairings are like mortal enemies, like the forbidden love kind of trope. I do like that. Now we're going to talk about the power of the triumvirate. This is going to be really brief, but there is a quote that we want to talk about. So, quote, over the centuries, the others who had accepted their curse were systematically killed off until only Malcolm remained. There were whispers that Malcolm ingested their power somehow. He is a millennia old, undying, never aging. End quote. This is foreshadowing into why Malcolm has been around so long. He's like the most powerful vampire. And we know that the vampires and feeders, it just explains why he's been around for so long and why he's so powerful. And I know like towards the beginning of the book, we did figure out that Madra has been around for centuries as well. So it's tying in between the two because we know that one can't die without the other. So it's proving why all of them have lived for so long because Madra's also lived for centuries. Nobody can really explain why she has been here so long. We don't really get a lot of reference to Bellic and Buttface's age. So I don't know how long he's been around, but we know that he's been around just as long.
I feel like on my first read, that quote that you just said, that should immediately linked it in my head. Oh, Madra and Malcolm are somehow interconnected. Because, like, he's described in the same way, like a millennia old, undying. And then Madra is like the undying queen in Silverin. And I feel like that was foreshadowing. Tie those two together.
Yeah.
But I totally did not connect that on my first read. So it was really cool to see again and notice that.
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk about another quote that's relating to the power of the triumvirate, because I just thought it was interesting the way Saeris described it. Quote, the sense of power he'd given off had been staggering. I'd felt it pushing and pulling at me, looking for my weak spots, as if it had wanted to force me to my knees in supplication. So I feel like this is foreshadowing just like how intense the fight and the whole end climax is going to be and how powerful the triumvirate is. Just like the way she describes it sounds terrifying. Like his magic is like pushing and probing at her and looking for weaknesses. I just feel like that was interesting.
I definitely looked over all of this my first read. The fact that Madra, Billiken, and Malcolm, all of our main antagonists in the book, the fact that all of them were one, like a team, I was like, what the hell is going on? Why are these people here? So
I did not see that coming.
Yeah, no, this was definitely, it threw me for a loop. Next, we're going to discuss the Balcutter clan just a little bit. So this stretch of chapters actually introduces a new type of magical being, and that being will be witches. And so as a desperate attempt to save Everlane, the Inner Circle finds a witch to help slow the venom. Witches haven't been seen in hundreds and hundreds of years. Quote, the last of the witches abandoned Evalia 100 years ago, Lorreth said. No one's seen a member of the Balcutter clan in twice as long. We don't even know where they went. End quote. I found this confusing at first because they disappeared. They fled Avelia, and then about 10 pages later, they randomly find a witch, and not just any witch, but literally the granddaughter of the Balquidder High Witch. So I'm just like, where the heck did she just come from? Because nobody knew where they were, and they just randomly found her.
I know. I was like, well, that was convenient. You guys found her so fast.
Yeah. I think that she was willing to help them because she worked alongside was it the Dianthus family?
Yeah.
It was either the Dianthus family or it was either Fisher's family. I don't remember which family it was, but they worked alongside one of the families to try to find the cure to the blood curse. So I think that's probably why they were willing to help, and they were a big help in actually finding that cure.
Yeah, I think it was the Dianthus family, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I don't remember which family it was.
Okay. So now we're going to get into our theories section. So especially now that we're progressed this much in the book, that's more theories for future books instead of foreshadowing, because we've already kind of uncovered a lot of stuff in the story. But my first one I want to talk about is I have a theory that Saeris can actually slow time when she wields Solace. So let's get into it. But there was a moment for me that just made me think during the second battle at the Darn River, quote, time slowed down and the strangest thing happened. My heart rate dipped, a sense of peace washed over me. Acceptance and understanding. The vampire on the left bypassed Ren and came straight for me. He was moving fast, I knew he was, and yet it seemed as if he was running on loose sand. On my first read, I think I first just didn't think about this. I thought it was just Saeris getting into the rhythm and the thrill of battle with her super cool new powerful sword. But however, this time around, I actually noticed that Ren paused and he did a double take and he was questioning, like, what was that? Because he felt time slow too. And he's like just taking in Saeris really wide eyed, like, what did you just do?
Yeah.
But so clearly the slowing of time, it wasn't just in her perception. He noticed it too. And then they're interrupted before she can like answer and explain, or just so we can figure out what the heck just happened. But I have a theory that maybe she awakened the old magic in Solace again, or she maybe has a special connection to it that allows her to channel this power of slowing time. But I don't know. I don't think that was a throwaway moment. I feel like that was very important. I just didn't notice it on my first read.
Yeah, I feel like any piece of, I feel like any scene like that is just thrown in there. I feel like we've kind of cracked the code on Callie's like writing style, and she likes to throw little hints in like the most action-packed scenes, and it's like easy to overlook. And I did not catch on to that at all. I actually did not even read this theory before we started recording, so this is my first time seeing it or hearing about it, and I think it's really cool because I didn't even notice this. But like now that you reiterate the scene and talk about it and explain it a little bit deeper, it makes a lot of sense, and I wouldn't put it past Callie Hart.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I definitely think that is her writing style. I mean, this book is so action-packed. Like, even from the beginning, it's like immediately like bam, 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 she's in Avelia. And you're like, not like 100 pages deep. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my brother's actually reading it because he's a listener of our podcast. He's so sweet. Yeah. And he was like, dang, this book did not waste any time getting into the action. And I was like, yeah. And it continues to be that for the whole book. It's just one thing after the next. And it's like so many plot twists thrown in there. I love it. It's just so good. But there is those little nuggets that she throws in there.
Little chicken nuggets.
Oh my God. So Callie actually commented on we posted, if you listen to our last episode where we got sidetracked by a whole chicken nugget discussion, she commented, she was like, make note, must include chickens in book 2. So I don't know, maybe we'll get a chicken.
I hope we get a chicken.
That'll be so crazy.
If she adds a chicken to book 2, it'll be definitely Carrion who like brings the chicken into the.
It'll be like them eating a big roast chicken or something. Does that count?
I don't know.
Do we need to see the chicken coop?
No, I feel like she could just add like a weird little scene, like, you know how Carrion randomly came in with the plant. He'll just be like, "Oh, I found this chicken outside, and I wanted to keep it as a pet."
What if Carrion finds a chicken and keeps it as his little side character pet?
I bet he would.
Like Hey from Moana. That's what I'm envisioning.
Yes.
Yes, I love it. Canon.
Okay, the next day we're going to talk about dragons, of course. So we will talk about Fisher's prophecy here in a second, but his Dragonbane's nickname has just been in the back of my mind for quite some time. And I know that we answered the reason behind this nickname in the Battle of the Agent Gate, because Fisher and his pack slay Shakrai, which is the last dragon. And I will cut Lane some slack. I know I've been on her head about why she didn't tell us about Shakrai, but I see now that it was a lot to unpack with the song. I see why she didn't explain it. So I'm gonna lay off Lane. I don't think she's a traitor. I don't think so. Anywho, we know that witches, so we know like in this mix, witches were accused to be dragon lovers and they were blamed for the existence of the blood curse in the first place. Isabel, she quickly shut this down, saying that they were not the reason behind the blood curse. They actually were the ones trying to find the cure for it. And it sounds like the Fae just in general paid a pretty hefty price in order for the dragons to exist. This is more so like raising a series of questions than really a concrete theory, but I'm really just wondering, did the witches have any involvement with the existence of dragons? Because they didn't voluntarily help find the cure. They were charged with finding the cure to the blood curse. So this could either be because they were the reason behind it and the king was like, look, y'all better fix this, or it could be true they were dragon lovers and they were the reasons behind the blood curse. I don't know. 2, how did dragons even get here? Like, where did they come from? And how was Shakrai the last dragon when it was a whole horde outside of the gate? So is it like, was he like the one that controlled them all, kind of like Malcolm? Like if Shakrai died, like that all of them died?
I haven't thought about that.
Because in the song they were talking about a horde of dragons outside the gate, so it's just like he gets stabbed in the neck and then like he was the last dragon alive. I don't understand. So I'm just like kind of confused. I wonder where they came from, how they died. Like, why don't we know how they died, but like how did all of them become extinct? And then 3, like who's actually behind the blood curse? I feel like Malcolm is probably the most obvious choice here, and I feel like it's a little too obvious. So I really want to know the story behind like the blood curse, more of the history behind it and how it came about.
That would be interesting.
Yeah,
I love doing this podcast with you because we'll do it, the outline separately, and you'll think of things that I don't even think about, and then it makes me like even crazier about the book. And I love it.
When I do the outline, I don't even look at your sections because I want when we record to be my first reaction to everything that you write. So I try not to look at the stuff that you put on there.
Yeah, I think that's been helping us be more fresh and loose on our episodes.
Yeah,
we were a little uptight. Now I'm crazy.
Yes.
The real me.
Much more comfortable now.
Anyways, I just have a really brief theory about Lorreth's purpose and how he might be connected to this like prophecy I think that we're all kind of maybe catching on to. But when Saeris completes reforging the God Sword, there's some powerful signs as Lorreth sings and then it claims him. So like the Aurora the Aurora is known to be a blessing in this realm, and it shows up for the first time in 1,000 years. So I know they're Fae, and 1,000 years is like not as much as it is to us, but I feel like that's still like a really powerful sign. And I just feel like all this stuff happening at once, like Fisher and Saeris coming together, like the relics, the portals, the god swords, and the Aurora too, and it's connected specifically to Lorreth. So I just thought that was interesting. I feel like he is gonna be a very important character to our plot. And I also am intrigued. I don't think we ever learn what his name comes from. Lorreth of the Broken Spires. I don't remember reading about where that nickname came from. Yeah. But I hope we find out maybe in book 2 because I want to know what it means.
I feel like Callie Hart gave us so much information, but then so like little information. Because I feel like there's still so many things that we don't have answers to. And all the side characters are so interesting because they all have these little aspects to them and characteristics and traits that we get to know more about. Like, where does his name come from? What does this broken spires mean? And why was Lorreth so important to save? Because, you know, Kingfisher gave a piece of his soul to him. So obviously, he's of importance.
Yes, that part too.
Yeah. Speaking of Fisher, we're going to talk about his purpose and his prophecy next. So the Quicksilver itself tells Saeris about when Fisher entered the pool unprotected, leaving us to ponder more about what his grand purpose is in the book and how it connects to the rest of our inner circle. Quote, "He was so young when he entered our pool, he should not have survived it, but he was strong. In the grand halls of the universe rang aloud with his purpose. We permitted him to live so that he might fulfill that purpose. We bound ourselves to him that he might survive. end quote. His mother, the Oracle, deepens the sense of prophecy and purpose we have about Fisher and his story. Quote, there will be a time when the world seeks to destroy you, King Fisher. You are stronger than you can ever know, and you will not falter, and you will not face it alone. End quote. And I kind of go back to the Quicksilver talking to Saeris and saying that they bound themselves to him so that he could survive. I find this is very interesting because all this time we've been looking at the Quicksilver in his eye as a consequence for him going into the Quicksilver without a relic. And it's really interesting to learn that the Quicksilver actually bound to him in order to keep him alive and keep him from dying because they just felt his purpose and how strong he was.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's some greater force or greater entity that's making these things happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's suspicious. Okay, I wanted to talk about another theory that I came up with about the connection between Quicksilver and the Alchemist. I don't know. We learn more about the connection between the Quicksilver and the Alchemist in these chapters via all the interactions that Saeris has with it. And it's like actual dialogue that she's having with it. So when Lorreth's song is erased from the world, but only Saeris can remember, quote, we remember, so the Alchemist remembers. So I kind of wonder if this is like almost like a collective consciousness. It's very interesting, but she clearly has a special relationship with this Quicksilver that no one else has.
Yeah.
And then when Saeris introduces herself to the Quicksilver within Fisher, it says, quote, we know who she is. She is the dawn. She is the moon. She is the sky. She is oxygen in our lungs, end quote. So the Quicksilver seems to like revere Saeris and really respect her. And we know she is the most powerful alchemist ever recorded, so this could be why, but the way it speaks about her just gives me pause. And the Quicksilver itself also seems to encourage Saeris to save Kingfisher, making me question if somehow the Quicksilver and its sentience is tied to the prophecy or the will of the gods that I don't know, that they need to accomplish their purpose. It's interesting. But anyways, here's the actual quote. Quote, the Kingfisher save him, save the gates, save Evelia. That's actually how it's spelled. It's like a bunch of G's and S's.
Yeah.
Kingfisher. But I just think it's so interesting how much we learn about this Quicksilver from her conversations with it, and it's just bringing up more and more questions for me.
Yeah. So your second point is really interesting to me because I think last chapters we talked about how Kingfisher described her as the moon, and I wonder if this is just something that the Quicksilver has been telling him since he's met her. And the Quicksilver also says she is the oxygen in our lungs. I don't know, it's weird because the Quicksilver is bound to him, of course, and like they kind of know how important she is to him. They also know how important she is in general to saving all of the Fae. So it's weird because yes, his mother predicted her coming, but it's like now I feel like the Quicksilver is like playing the second role and making sure that they come together. And making sure, like, talking to her, making sure that she saves him and saves Evelia, but also talking to him and maybe convincing him to actually accept the maiden bond.
It's very notable. I didn't think too hard on that on my first read either.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. It likes her. Cool magic. Good boy.
So this is a theory that I literally just came up with off the top of my head while I was writing the outline. And it's another theory on Fisher's dad's death. So we know that Solus was in the Hall of Mirrors in Zilverin, and Solus was actually what was keeping the realms closed and keeping the Quicksilver pool sealed off from being activated. So we also know that his dad is supposed to be dead, and the last place that he was documented was in Zilverin. Okay, so was it ever expressed that Fimrin was the alchemist?
No, I don't think so.
Because his sword was an Alchemirian sword. I didn't look at what Alchemirian meant, but I assumed that
relating
it was
to alchemy. I
think. Yeah. So maybe Fimrin. This is way out there. Maybe Madra used him to seal off the Quicksilver, like convince the Quicksilver to be sealed, and she used a sword as the key.
Okay, that's interesting because I've never thought about how that's his father's blade. How did Madra end up with it, and how is it in the pool of Quicksilver? So I've never even thought about that, so thank you. Well, you know that all the god swords are Alchemist swords, right?
Oh shit.
Right?
Well, no.
So I don't know if you were thinking about like that specifically was making him alchemist, but he could have been. Or even if he wasn't an alchemist, maybe she had another one that activated the pool and she still got his sword to steal it.
Yeah.
Or made him do it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I was like, me saying that he's an alchemist is far-fetched. I just threw it out there. But I think somehow she killed him and used his sword to seal it off. I don't know if this time frame matches up, but I know that all of the god swords they didn't contain any more magic after the gods fled. Went on their little hike.
No idea where they are.
But Solus still holds a little bit of power, I assume, because they were trying to figure out how the heck did she wield it without something happening to her. So maybe with it still being active, I guess you can say, it was used to seal off the realms. I don't know. I think that Modric killed his father, though, if he's dead.
Yeah.
This is my new
if
theory.
He's dead, it was her.
That's my new theory.
I agree. All right. Let's talk about our favorite notable moments, quotes, and all that.
Yes. So, obviously, I'm starting this section off talking about Kingfisher. We all saw this coming.
Yep.
But there is one specific line that had me kicking my feet and giggling, and I'm about to say it. Quote, "I was wrong, you are a good thief," end quote. OMG.
So cute.
So cute. He just keeps hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter every episode. I love this man. I love how his main focus was to push her away, and now he's just making small, subtle attempts at romance. But the more we get into the book, the more he's not holding back anymore. He's letting go. He's showing all of his vulnerability, and it's just so cute. And this line was so precious because she's like, "Stole what?" And then he didn't get to finish the sentence, and I was like, "Girl, you stole his heart.
You stole it, yes." That was almost one of my favorite moments, and then I came up with other ones that I liked more. But yes, that was really cute.
Yeah.
It also made me kick my feet.
My next favorite moment was the introduction to this new character, Taladeus, to such a chapters. And I don't know, this man just sounds so beautiful. And to know that he helped save the inner circle just makes me like him even more, because it means that he's kind of important. I don't know how relevant he'll be in book 2, but I hope he gets to join the crew later on. I don't know. I'm all for him being a part of the inner circle.
What was his nickname? It was Lord of Midnight or something.
Oh,
and I was like, oh my god, it's giving High Lord of the Night Court. Something. I was like, that sounds sexy.
Yes. Okay, circling back to Kingfisher and Saeris. Yeah. We get some mates this stretch of chapters. And I feel like we all saw this coming, of course. But in this stretch, Saeris, I love this scene. I love how Saeris is getting information out of Talena. She has no clue what's going on, and Saeris is just fuming. She's getting these answers and she's just eating it up. She's like, I'm gonna kill this man. So Saeris asks Talena about her maiden bond, and she gets the DL on the ancient bonds that aren't really real ? I love the irony of this scene, and I love the buildup of her anger, and I love how after she talks to Talena, she I'm gonna go find Kingfisher, and she goes, she slams the door, and she just kind of word vomits, and he goes, fuck. He just knows he's in deep shit.
He's like, oh damn, I guess it's gonna happen here and now. It was a pretty funny sequence of events.
Yeah, it was so ironic. I loved it. I was like, ooh, we're getting answers. She's gonna get him. And she's like, why did you not say my name until now? You refused to say my real name until a day ago. What's up?
Our girl Saeris is smart.
She is.
She knew that was fishy.
She's very clever.
She is.
My last favorite moment was Carrion Swift actually being useful in such a chapters.
What do you mean he's been useful all book with his comedy?
Literally him sleeping in the middle of a battle is crazy.
And then, it had to be so loud because they were pounding on the ice.
But I absolutely lost it when he was the one to crack the code to the Quicksilver. I was like, no way, just like that. Did you ask it? If it could Reforged.
It's like the first idea he had was like her last fucking idea.
I just feel like he's just such an underrated character. In the inner circle, Loki hates him, and he's just because he isn't the best with his timing, and sometimes the things he says like never make sense, but then like this one actually makes sense. He's just like, well, dude, it's obvious what you need to do. Like, you need to axe it. You talk to it all the time. Like, just axe it to do it. Like, what?
Yeah. I feel like this is foreshadowing because in the next episode, it's his revelation that he's the Dianthus heir.
Yeah.
So I was starting to picture him as like, he's actually kind of smart.
Yeah.
Even though he's like mostly just being dumb for laughs.
Yeah.
All right. My first favorite moment was when we find out the real meaning of O'Shaleth and the O'Shaleth butterflies. So Fisher reveals that they mean most sacred, and this moment was so sweet for me. This is the one that had me kicking my feet. Oh my goodness. This whole scene was just like such a moment of vulnerability for Fisher, and Saeris learns how highly regarded she was by him from the beginning, despite how he hated what she represented and the fears that she brought into his life. Quote, most sacred, the name he gave me, the name I hated, was a declaration of what I meant to him even then. For a long, long time, all I could do was cry through this monumental revelation, end quote. Fisher, you better be careful or I'm going to add you to my top 10 book boyfriend list. And yes, that's a threat. But oh my gosh, I just love, because that was something that started at the beginning of the book, and now we're just learning this is what it actually meant.
Yeah.
And it was just adorable. Anyways, second favorite moment was Lorreth and Avicieth. But this was actually no doubt my favorite moment of these chapters. So this is also the most we've seen of Lorreth thus far, because he hasn't really been in this many scenes up to this point, but he rocks my fucking socks off. Okay, I love the sword claiming him, and the cherry on top was him wielding it in battle the next day. Quote, raw, unfiltered threads of power probed across the edge of the darn, seeking multiple marks at once, and surprised shouts went up all along the bank as warriors locked in battle watched their opponents burst into flames like torches. It was Lorreth. Lorreth, in the angel's breath Avicieth had granted him, and the sight of it set my soul on fucking fire. So this line specifically, I love how it's described as like a spider web of power, because that's so easy for me to visualize, and it's also just like freaking dope. And then Saeris' reaction to it is also really cool, like how much pride and amazement she feels, especially after she spent hours and hours putting her heart and soul into that blade and making it so diligently, and then seeing it wielded with such power was probably something really cool for her. Well, it was something really cool for her.
Yeah.
And this just makes me also excited for her magic and her capabilities to progress, because this is only book 1 and she's already made a god sword. She knows how to make relics. Like, what else can our girl do? And also, what if she makes more god swords? Like, what are their powers going to be? I don't know. It's so fun. Okay, my last favorite, of course, has to be Carrion. Okay.
Of course.
Obvious. I have to have at least one favorite moment that revolves Carrion. But anyways, I want to talk about how Carrion's a plant mom, just like Kenzie.
Yay!
As if it wasn't funny enough that he slept through the entire battle. He has just a plant with him that he stole because he thought it was pretty, and he was like, let me liven up my sparse little tent. But this cracked me up. This might be the funniest moment of the whole book. I don't know why. It was just so random, especially after such a serious moment with Taladeus and Lane. It's like, oh shit, the end of the book is happening, like shit's getting intense, and then it's just like Carrion with a plant. Like, what? But anyways, while I talk about my precious baby Carrion, I wanted to mention how much he made me laugh through these chapters. So him pointing out that Dania called him pretty. He was like, oh, she called me pretty. Don't forget. That he loves girls with a sharp tongue and bad attitude. And I'm like, okay, that's fitting because that's also Saeris.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I also just loved how ready Carrion was to head into battle with the inner circle immediately. He was like, I'm in. No questions. I'm ready. And then he declares he's too pretty to die old anyways. I'm like, oh my God, that's such a Carrion thing to say. Yes. But it's funny because we know he is Fae and more prepared for this upcoming fight than the group thinks he is. But it's still pretty, like, incredibly brave of him and also sweet of him. And he's as invested as, like, the cause and Evelia and like everything as Saeris is at this point. And I think it's really cool. Even though everyone's so mean to him, I think they all secretly love him.
Yeah.
Except for Fisher. I don't think Fisher likes him.
Fisher just tolerates him at this point. And barely even that.
I wonder if they'll ever have to spend time together alone.
That would be cool.
Team up on something. That would be really funny.
All right, folks, time to close out our chapter chat section and move on to our myths and magic portion, where we will dive into the mythology that inspired Quicksilver, as well as explaining world-building topics. Today, we will be explaining the god swords and a little bit more of the magic, so feel free to skip ahead to our miniseries if you feel like you are already an expert.
Yay! Okay, for our mythology portion, there's a mention of the Ouroboros in these chapters, and I just think it's cool because I've heard this in other fantasy books before, namely Akatar. Mm-hmm. But in this book, Saeris compares Aenir, that war camp that's constantly fighting the zombies at the Darn, as an Ouroboros, aka a snake eating its tail because its purpose will never be fulfilled. And while there's a mention of this, even though it's really brief, I thought it would be fun to dive into the mythology behind it because I've seen it in more fantasy books before. And you know what? Why not? I'm a nerd. But this myth of the Ouroboros originated in ancient Egypt, China, or Mesopotamia, but it has appeared in many cultures since then, one of the most prominent being Norse mythology. So the Ouroboros appears as the serpent Jormungandr. Fuck that up for sure. Hold on, let me try it one more time. Jormungandr.
I think that's it. That's it right there.
Yeah, Jormungandr, one of the three children of Loki and Angerboda. I actually do know how to say that because I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and there's a storyline in there with Loki and Angerboda. Look at me, I know shit.
I don't know nothing you just said. I just heard words.
Anyways, this serpent, I'm not going to say that name again, it grew so large that it eventually coiled around Midgard and began eating its own tail until it released to take part in the apocalyptic battle Ragnarok. It's said to symbolize the cycles of nature, the conflict between good and evil, as well as the cycles of life. So that kind of makes sense. This doesn't really connect to where Saeris is using it per se, but I still think this stuff is so interesting. So skip ahead if you don't, but if you're a nerd, it's cool. Yeah, welcome. Hey.
Yeah. I feel like mythology is so cool to talk about because there's so many different types of mythology and they originate from so many different places. So it's cool to see where a lot of these things come from. No. Okay, we're going to talk about Ishabal, and this name is a Scottish and Gaelic variant of the name Isabel, which is actually a Spanish variant of Elizabeth. For the meaning, Elizabeth is derived from the Hebrew name Elishaba, meaning God is my oath or pledge to God. There's a subtle spiritual connotation here, which I find fitting since witches are supernatural.
Next, we're going to talk about Melina, which is actually the grandmother of Ishabal.
Ah, shit. This is one of my trial by trivia questions, so I got to change it. I was going to ask what her name was.
All right. Anyway, Miss Melina girl, is High Witch of the Balkader clan. Her name can also be traced back to Hebrew as well for meaning a variant of the original name Magdalene. So Melina means soothing of the tower and also connotates a peace-giving character who displays strength and fortitude. And I guess if we ever meet Melina in future books, we'll see if she lives up to this Hebrew name. But who knows? I just thought it was random, but cool.
Speaking of the Balkader clan. While this is the name of the witch clan in this book, the word Balkader is derived from the Scots Gaelic phrase Ballichutir, meaning the distant form.
Nope.
Ballichutir.
I don't know how to do a Scottish accent either. Fuck me.
I don't know. But it means the distant form, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if that's connected to their witch clan, but now you know what that means, so you're welcome. All right, so for our world building topic of the day, we're going to get into the god swords because I do feel like they're going to be important. So not only does Saeris create Lorreth's new god sword, but Fisher also gives her solace. So now that her resume of capabilities is expanding a little and she could possibly make more of these magical weapons, I think these swords are going to become more important to the rest of the book. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about what we know just generally about god swords from the book. They were formed by the ancient Alchemist masters and were once able to channel very powerful magic by their wielder. Only the person sealed to the sword can wield it, and it'll harm whoever else puts their hands on it. For example, Danya. She tries to touch the sword and she don't have a hand no more. They are religious and cultural icons to the Fae, even though all but one haven't contained magic in centuries. And apparently an Alchemist sword can still the Quicksilver, or possibly maybe it's just Solus that can do that. We actually don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of Solus, from what we know, Solus was what held the realms closed for so long, as Kana just said. It belonged to Fisher's father, Finrin. There we go.
Yeah.
It belonged to Finrin. It's also the sword that executed the entire Dianthus line. Well, almost, because we know that Carrion still exists. And it is referred to as a relic, so we can assume that it contains some Quicksilver, obviously, because it is a god sword.
All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about Nimmerel, which is Fisher's sword. And when it's first introduced to our story, Rusarius, our old librarian friend, describes it as a formidable, storied weapon of the ancients. It is a black sword that trails smoke and has been tarnishing over the years at the cost of retaining its magic. Fisher owns the blade and can summon it out of nowhere, and it is the only god sword not dormant after so many years. The spirit or magic in the sword choosing or remaining with Fisher. So he has actually put the sword to good use, defending Uvelia against the everlasting darkness of Sanisroth for 400 years, and also slaying a ginormous dragon, old Shakrai, whatever his name was.
Shakrai.
Nom. When Saeris tries to touch it, she suffers extreme agony and her palm is charred to a crisp. Ouch. And if anyone's read Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, it reminded me of the shard blades, how Fisher can summon it out of the mist or like mist into his hand. It was cool.
All right, now we're going to talk about the mating bonds, the god bindings, and true mates, which we all learn about from our good healer friend, Talina. So, like we all predicted, Saeris and Fisher are mates, but they're a special type of mates. And in the series, a regular mating bond between two Fae consists of them marking their skin after their 5th wedding anniversary. And they design these markings and they go to someone to actually tattoo them on their skin. Which is weird, because Saeris, her stuff just magically appeared. These markings are known to represent the blessings that the couple actually prays for. And this is the maiden bond that Talina has with her husband. And she tells us a little bit about that and how she just got hers marked. And so there's also a thing that she referred to as true mates, and she explained it to be unions between mates in which they were blessed 9 marks from the fates, which is where the tradition of inking their hands came from. And true mates died when the gods fled Evalia. God bindings are the last type of bond that Talina explained, and this bond has only ever been read in storybooks. God bindings are considered a blessing from the gods and have never been documented. The most important couples in Evalia history were said to have them, and they sported typically more ink, because the other 2 bonds, they try to keep it modest. 7 is considered a lot for them, but God bindings, they are known to sport a little bit more ink, and their ink also consists of writing that goes around their wrists. Oh, and the lovers of God bindings also face great tragedy. One always die in the storybooks. So
I don't like that.
I know.
Let's hope not. I don't know how Callie Hart writes endings, but
All right, moving on from mythology and all those things, time for our mini series mix and match, where every week Kana and I will do 2 to 3 mini series unique to our podcast. They won't be the same every week, so keep tuning in for all the fun. Kana?
Yeah.
I'll let you go first. Oh, today we're doing astrological signs, and we're doing fan casts. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, astrological signs. I'm going to start out with Kingfisher. I think he's a Scorpio. I think it's fitting he's a fire sign. It's perfect that Scorpios are known for intensity, secretiveness, unyielding determination, and the stereotype is that they don't really care about pleasing people. And it definitely just fits his entire intense pretty boy vibe, but he does not give a fuck what other people think. That's for show. And he's very determined to do things his way.
Yeah.
Saeris, I think, is an Aries, and I also think that she has that intense nature that makes her a fire sign, but is set apart from Fisher because she's an Aries and not a Scorpio. She has an intense energy, but she also has like that. She's very impulsive when she's in a bad spot. Courage and passion that's associated with Aries, and she's not afraid to throw down for her loved ones, and she can be reckless on her bad days, like stealing the gauntlet. That was a little impulsive, a little reckless, but you know, it worked out. And she also just says what she thinks and isn't afraid to stand up to Fae warriors 30 times her age, and that made her an Aries for me. Carrion, I think you're a Libra. Here's why. So this air sign is known for traits like extrovertedness, being charming, being idealistic, and also being a diplomatic spirit that helps them be really good at connecting with people. And I was like, yeah, that's Carrion. As soon as I heard charming and social, I was like, yep, sealed the deal. Despite how annoying most people seem to find him in this book, again, I do think everyone likes him more than they let on. He is just very likable, and he has a warmth to him that draws people in, I think. And I mean, yeah, it's called charm, but I do think that everyone's slowly coming to love him, even though he's mostly annoying.
Yeah, it's so funny when we do this miniseries, because when you're talking about the different signs you think everybody are, and you're like listing out the traits, I'm like thinking of people I know with these signs. I'm like, yeah, that's fitting. Okay, I think that Fisher's a Gemini, and I only picked the sign because I was trying to be different and I choose the same thing as you did. So in my attempt to pick something different, I did think, or I kind of connected Kingfisher with the Geminis, and they are most known for their playfulness, their versatility, and their independence. And Kingfisher is very playful, and he enjoys engaging in banter with Saeris. I thought that this was really cool because his way of flirting was to be like mean and kind of aggravate her, almost just kind of annoy her.
Yeah.
And he's very versatile because he's a born leader. Like, he has so many different nicknames. He's done so much. He's all over the place. Like, every chapter we're like, bro, where did this name come from? When did you do this? Like, what? Lastly, he's just very independent. I think sometimes he just needs his space. A lot of the times throughout this book, he's like disappeared for a little while, just trying to get away. I think he likes to deal with a lot of his inner turmoil by himself. He doesn't really open up that much until like we get closer to the end of the story. So I feel like that he is very independent in that sense. I also agree with Kanan. I think that Saeris is an Aries. I tried to research and find something different, but I think that you hit it right on the nail with this one. I feel like she is definitely an Aries. So I do agree. I thought Carrion was a Sagittarius. I chose this solely because of the one trait that they possess, and that is their undiplomatic comments. I feel like this fits Carrion to the T. Carrion, he literally carried this book on his shoulders with his crazy comments and jokes. Sagittarius is also known to be misunderstood, which I agree, because most of the characters kind of complain about how horrible Carrion's timing is and complain about his jokes and his snide remarks, but I think he actually has a lot of sense and he contributes to the story a lot, and he just might be a little bit misunderstood. I think we do get that from the fact that we all just thought he was just some weird human that came to join the Fae folk, but he's actually a part of the world, so I do agree with that. Yeah. Lastly, I thought Lorreth was a Capricorn. I feel like he reminds me a lot of myself. Like, he's very focused on the end goal. He's very loyal. And yeah, I just want to throw him in here because I like him.
Yes. I think that may be why he's your favorite side character, is because he reminds you of yourself.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, we're going to get into our fan cast. I'm excited. I spent a lot of time putting this together. Okay, so for Saeris, I would cast Odeya Rush. She's an Israeli actress. She's 27, but it is exactly how I pictured Saeris, especially with black hair. And I feel like she could play, even though Saeris is 21. I feel like she could pull that off. But she has like really striking features, which is how I imagine Saeris to be. And I don't know, it was just perfect. As soon as I saw her, I was like, yep, that's Saeris. Fisher, oh my gosh, I had a hard time picking one. But I finally went with Gavin Leatherwood. So he's from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. He kind of plays like a broody boy in that as well. So we know he can pull it off. So that's good. And I also feel like he could pull off like the long tousled hair, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Tragically, he's short. He's like 5'8", which is short to me because I'm a giant
Damn.
person.
No, that's short to me too.
But I could definitely see him pulling off Fisher. I don't know. And I couldn't find anyone else. I spent way too long searching. I was like, yeah, it's going to have to be this. I don't know. Yeah. Carrion, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with my Carrion fan cast. It's KJ Appa from Riverdale. And I don't even like Riverdale that much. But I think he's got like that boyish charm. And we know he looks good with red hair. So I think if he had like a little bit like longer red hair that's maybe like curled or messy and then like a beard, that's Carrion. I can't get it out of my brain now. Renthis, I want him to be Alexander Draymond. So if you watched The Last Kingdom, he played Uhtred and he was like just so good. And now that's who I see when I think about Ren. And my last fan cast, and this might be the one I'm most obsessed with, and it's for Malcolm of all people, is Matt Smith. So he's from House of the Dragon. He plays Daemon, if you've seen it. But I saw someone suggest on TikTok that this dude plays Malcolm, and it's just so perfect. I don't even remember off the top of my head how Malcolm's described. I have no picture of it in my head. I just never paid attention to what he looks like in the book. But it just works. I can totally see him playing the villain very well since he's very morally gray in House of the Dragon, and it totally worked. And then also, I just think he's hot now because I've seen him riding a dragon. Like previously, I did not think this dude was attractive, and then I like saw him ride a dragon and like wield a sword, and I was like, "Take me away on your dragon." So I just want to see him in more stuff. That's really what it is. Please and thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
My fan cast isn't as in depth because I don't watch a lot of shows or anything. I don't know a lot of actors, so I just tried my best. So I actually casted Saeris as Megan Fox. I feel like she kind of looks similar. Like I tried to look at a lot of the fan art just to see, kind of how the characters look, get a better picture in my head. I feel like she kind of looks close to how Saeris looks in the fan art. And she's already played a main female character. I mostly remember her from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was the one movie that like reminded me of it. And she does a lot of cool stuff in that movie, so I'm pretty convinced she could fit this role. My Fisher is Kit Harington, the dude that played Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. I feel like his role in Game of Thrones with the curly hair and stuff kind of reminds me like a little bit of Fisher, and I feel like he does play like a darker role. He's not like super dark in Game of Thrones, but he is kind of like more quiet and ruthless at the same time. I feel like that kind of fits Fisher. Couldn't find anybody for Carrion. I looked and looked and looked. I don't know who the hell Carrion's gonna be.
I feel like that was my easiest cast. That was like who I knew immediately. I didn't even look up. Yeah. This is how obsessed I am with him. But I do really love Kit Harington. But he's so gosh darn short.
He's short
too? What am I gonna do, Mackenzie?
Dang.
Wait, is he? I'm pretty sure. Hey Siri, how tall is Kit Harington? He's 5'8" too.
Damn. So my next fan cast, I actually casted Madra because I don't know why, but I think Angelina Jolie would be a pretty good actress for her. I feel like Angelina Jolie is one of my favorite villains. Even though she really wasn't a villain in Maleficent, but like she kind of was. But I think she could pull it off. And then I actually fan casted Talladega. Fan casted him as Jacob Elordi, but I don't know if I'm like super confident with that fan casting. I don't know. I feel
I was thinking about Jacob Elordi for Carrion.
I guess. I feel like that might fit. Honestly,
I don't know. I don't know if he could pull off that upbeat character because I've only seen him in like really dark shit.
Right. That's why I put him with Taladeus because
I like that actually.
Yeah. And then y'all, I talked about this last episode. Y'all had to be expecting this. I actually fan casted Malcolm as Michael Sheen from Twilight, the dude that's like the head of the council.
It's good though.
I couldn't stop picturing it. So like I need this. I need that.
Not as good as my Malcolm, but it's good.
I don't know how Malcolm looks, but that's how I pictured him. I was like, this guy's to be.
I have no idea what he looks
dude, like. And Michael Sheen played a vampire. So it just kind of fits. Like he's already played the role as like a vampire villain because he was the villain in Twilight.
You need to watch House of the Dragon.
I'm getting there. I gotta finish Game of Thrones.
I know. All right. So before we close out our episode today, time for Trial by Trivia. So each week, Mackenzie and I will give each other and our listeners 2 trivia questions. At the end of our Quicksilver coverage, we'll tally who has the most points between hosts, and loser has to do something embarrassing, funny, silly, stupid that us or you guys as fans come up with. And we would love to hear your feedback, ideas, and participation in this section. All right.
Yes.
I'm ready.
All right, my first question. What was the nickname for Nom Shakrai in the Ballad of the Agent Gate?
Old Mad Shakrai.
Okay. Actually, that's not right, but it's close. Oh wait, they do it differently. What? It's right. That's right. They said the first time they said Mad Old Shakrai, and then the last one was Old Mad Shakrai. So yeah.
Okay.
I guess.
Right. You almost got me on a technicality. All right. How many hours did Saeris spend in the forge working on Aviciath?
I have a number in my head. I'm trying to make sure this is the one I want to go with.
Take your time.
16 hours.
It's 15?
Fuck!
I'll give you half a point.
It's okay. I got it wrong. It's okay.
Okay. I'm being too generous at this point.
Okay. This is gonna make or break me, bro. Here's my next question.
Oh, shit. We can do 3 questions next episode.
I think we should.
Let's do it.
How many witch families were charged with finding the blood curse cure?
Fuck. 4.
It was 5.
Oh my gosh, there was like a pause and I was like, wait, is she pissed because I got it again? All right. At the beginning of the stretch of chapters, what is Carrion smoking?
He's smoking.
Yeah.
A face cigarette?
What? It says a cigarillo. Is that a cigarette?
It's like I think a cigarillo is more like a cigar.
Damn.
I feel like she throws so many weird, like, humanly things in here, and it's just like literally a cigarillo.
What is that?
Oh gosh. Okay.
So what's the score now?
I still have 1.5. 1.5.
2.5. You have 2.5.
I got one right last time?
Yeah, you got one right last time.
Oh, I got 2.5.
See, don't lose hope yet. We're gonna do 3 questions, and we'll do a bonus question or something.
I gotta do my research, bruh.
Yeah, I know. Me too. That's a wrap, folks. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed our episode, and we're so happy you're here.
Join us next Thursday for our Quicksilver coverage, where we will be going over chapters 37 through 45, pages 507 through 609 for your reread or to refresh your memory. Yeah,
so sad. It's our last Quicksilver episode. But we get to talk about Violet.
Soaring down.
Zidane.
Oh my god, it's a certain part I cannot wait to talk about. But we're going to get there.
Okay. All right. As always, we appreciate any and all feedback from our wonderful listeners. So please leave us a review or reach out to us on our socials. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't, or just reach out to us if you want to talk about any kind of books. We love books. This is a newer podcast, and we would like to see it grow with your help. So like we said earlier, please tell a friend if you like our podcast. Leave us a review. Follow us. Subscribe on YouTube, all major podcast platforms, for a freshly baked episode to be delivered to you next week.
Bye, friends. See you next week.
Bye, friends. See you next week.
Bye.